As the road to Frisco, Texas grows nearer, we are now at the midway point of the historical FCS spring football season. Welcome on into another episode of FCS All In. I'm your host, Mary Luce Cook. Today's episode features segments from the 13 conferences around the FCS that you won't want to miss, as well as an exclusive interview with FCS contributing writers Sam Herder of Hero Sports and Craig Haley of Stats. Thanks for joining me as we go all in.
The Southern Conference continues to have a major impact on the landscape of FCS football in this unusual spring 2021 campaign. As we reach the midway point of the season, here's a look at just how effective the league action has been to this point. 6 of the 9 Southern Conference teams receiving votes in national polls this week, including VMI, for the first time in its FCS history, appeared in the national rankings. That's a highlight moment for a conference on the move as we head into Week 4 of SoCon football action. The Keydets also sit atop the league standings. They are the only 3-0 team in league play, trailed by an unbeaten Chattanooga squad and a Furman team equal in the win column, but also with one loss, the result of an additional game having already been played by the Paladins on the year. Furman is fresh off a road victory over ETSU. The Paladins upended the Bucks by a count of 17-13. It was Western Carolina by a touchdown over the Citadel, 21-14 the final in that contest, while Samford handled 20th-ranked Wofford 37-31, and it was a 42-14 win over the Mercer Bears, which VMI used to propel itself into the national conversation. A big week in Birmingham in terms of honors, as Samford's Chris Edmonds secured the Defensive Player of the Week nod alongside Special Teams Player of the Week Mitchell Finneran. The Offensive Player of the Week for Week 3 of Southern Conference action went to Western Carolina's Donovan Spencer. 4 games are on tap for the weekend of March 20th, with Furman hosting Chattanooga, ETSU visiting the Citadel, Samford welcoming in VMI, and Western Carolina on the road in Macon to take on the Mercer Bears. So there's a glance around the Southern Conference as it continues to make its mark in FCS football.
A lot to break down between Jackson State and Alabama State, but let's just show you the fourth quarter. Fans on the edge of their seats for this one. Alabama State on the move, trailing by a touchdown, putting together their best drive of the afternoon. Nettles with the long reception, and the Hornets are going to finish this drive off. Ezra Gray, the man of the afternoon, in for the touchdown, and he brushes it off. That ties it up at 21 apiece. On the ensuing kickoff, the Jackson State fans, they were feeling it because they felt they had a long kickoff return touchdown. It was nice. It was pretty. But unfortunately, JSU fans, it was called back for a penalty. On the ensuing possession, because Jackson State couldn't convert, Ezra Gray running off into the sunshine for another touchdown. Alabama State goes up 28-21. The defense has to talk about some things on the JSU sideline. On a long 3rd and 20, Jalen Jones, feeling the pressure, drops back. It's complete for a first down. Jackson State is in business. But Alabama State, the defense said, we're going to put an end to that. Jones fumbles the snap. He is sacked, but another flag. JSU still in business, and Jones able to finish the drive off with a short touchdown run, the finger roll, and another flag. That gets you some face time with prime time. Hey, man, look at here, man. It probably went something like that, right? Alabama State coming right back. Ezra Gray dances, jumps to the outside. He's going to the house once again. Hey, man, people on their feet doing the best we can here. Alabama State with the touchdown. They go up 35-28 on this nationally televised game on ESPN2. People loving it. One last chance for Jackson State. Jones driving. He's picked his second interception of the game. Those the first 2 of the year. And Alabama State, the defense, seals the game, but the offense showed up big, 35-28. For Jackson State, it's their first loss of the year. Deion Sanders and his crew leaving Montgomery with the loss, and the Alabama State players and fans celebrating as must be the money blares over the PA system. Yes, it's petty. Yes, it's HBCU football, and it's back. It was a big win for everyone.
It was great for television. Just a lot of history behind both teams. You know, them having Coach Sanders, just coming to Montgomery, just a lot of excitement. There was definitely a buzz around campus this entire week. And so to be able to have the presentation that we had, the fans were awesome. You know, Jackson had a good amount of fans here, just the energy. And then the competition, the product. It was just a really great game for television.
Hey everyone, it's Maddie Morris with the South Bend Conference. We've had an awesome start to our South Bend football season. The 7 teams competing this spring have definitely kept things exciting, with 4 squads ranking within the top 25. Sam Houston ranks the highest of all the South Bend teams, coming in at number 6 in the AFCA Coaches Poll and 7 in the Stats Perform FCS Poll. Southeastern Louisiana and Nichols rank 16th and 17th in both polls, while UIW ranks 20th in the Coaches Poll and 22nd in the other. And in a conference known for its offensive output, all 4 of these teams rank within the top 6 in the FCS in yards per game. One of 2 undefeated Southland teams, Sam Houston has gotten off to a hot start, leading not only the conference, but all FCS teams in scoring and total offense. Averaging 57 points and 614 yards a game, the Bearcats are finding success thanks to veteran quarterback Eric Schmid. The junior has thrown for 794 yards and 8 touchdowns in just 2 games and has developed a great connection with graduate transfer Jaquez Ezard. Another veteran quarterback that is taking control of his team is Southeastern Louisiana's Cole Kelly. After splitting time in 2019, the senior has taken over as the main man and in 3 games has already thrown for more than 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. With 3 games left in the regular season, the Lions are averaging 30 points and 501.7 yards a game and boast a 2-1 overall record. Defending conference champions Nichols also continues to be an offensive force, but this time with a new face behind center. Senior Lindsey Scott Jr. has gracefully stepped into the QB role this year and is finding success both through the air and on the ground. He ranks second on the team in rushing, having already ran for 249 yards and 4 scores, on top of throwing for 870 yards and 9 touchdowns. Another Southland team with a new face in the quarterback position is UIW. True freshman Cameron Ward has thrown for 8 touchdowns and 647 yards in 2 games and is helping the Cardinals average an impressive 572 yards a contest. Northwestern State started its season off with 2 tough ranked opponents, but has been able to hold onto the ball well and has managed to only commit 1 turnover compared to the 4 they have forced in some tight contests. Halfway through his first season at the helm of the Cardinals, Lamar head coach Blaine Morgan got his first win in thrilling fashion, beating the McNeese Cowboys on the road in overtime. And despite that loss to Lamar, McNeese is fortunate to even be playing on its home field this season. After 2 hurricanes hit the area 6 months ago, McNeese has dedicated this season to the city and the Lake Charles community. The Cowboys were also able to start their season off in dramatic fashion, winning in double overtime at Tarleton State in the first FCS game of the spring. We are so proud the FCS season will conclude here in Frisco, Texas on Sunday, May 16th as the Southland Conference plays host to the FCS National Championship game for the 11th straight year. Best of luck to all the FCS student athletes as they finish the remainder of their season.
Hi, Jimmy Johnson here in the Patriot League studio. Spring football is nothing new. We've seen it before with brown versus white, maroon and gold, all the colors. Teams getting ready, scrimmaging themselves to gear up for a fall season. But this spring we're going to have a little bit of a bigger game as a Patriot League championship will be on the line. Holy Cross was the last team to hoist that trophy in 2019, and although they didn't get the chance to defend that title in a fall season, they will now get to do it here in a spring season. And with that, let's announce our preseason poll. The Crusaders earned 45 points and 5 first-place votes to sit atop the preseason poll. They went 5-1 in the 2019 season to win the Patriot League Championship. Colgate, which won championships in 2015 and 2018, placed second in the poll with 36 points and 2 first-place votes. The Raiders returned experienced quarterback Grant Brenneman to run the offense. Fordham came in just behind Colgate in the poll at number 3 with 35 points and 4 first-place votes. The Rams returned several key starters, including Tim DeMorat at quarterback and Ryan Greenhagen on defense. Lafayette, which had a first-place vote, had 28 points to finish 4th, and Lehigh and Bucknell round out the poll. The preseason Offensive Player of the Year is Fordham Junior quarterback Tim DeMorat. He was the first-team All-League quarterback in 2019 and led the league in passing with 2,674 yards and 20 touchdowns. He also added 4 more scores on the ground. The Patriot League preseason Defensive Player of the Year is Lafayette Junior defensive lineman Malik Ham. He was the 2019 Defensive Player of the Year and the 2018 Rookie of the Year. In his 2 years at Lafayette, he has 16.5 sacks and 101 total tackles. DeMorat headlines the All-League team on offense, and he's joined by fellow teammate Zach Davis. The senior running back broke out in his junior year with 1,013 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns. He is the only Patriot League 1,000-yard rusher returning for 2021. Fordham is well represented on the defensive team as well, with 4 players landing on the squad. That includes junior linebacker Ryan Greenhagen, who had 123 tackles and 18.5 for a loss as a sophomore. Lafayette senior place kicker Jeffrey Cordenbrock leads the way among special teams players honored in the All-League Awards. He made 11 of 14 field goals for a 78.6% conversion rate, which ranked first in the Patriot League. ESPN Plus will be your new home for live Patriot League football games. Be sure to download the app or log on to patriotleague.tv. For the most up-to-date schedules, as well as more information on the Patriot League preseason football poll, log on to patriotleague.com.
Since its founding in 1875, Harvard football has led the way in innovating, helping to shape the sport into what we know today. Those innovations started from Harvard's first game on June 4th, 1875, when the Crimson became the first team to wear uniforms. At the turn of the next century, Harvard's facilities would play a major role in perhaps the biggest advancement in the history of football. The Crimson christened Harvard Stadium in 1903, the nation's first permanent concrete structure for athletics. 3 years later, as the Rules Committee pondered how to make football safer, the options were a forward pass or widening the field by 40 yards. Because of the size of Harvard Stadium, adding 40 yards to the field wasn't possible, so the committee opted for the forward pass. Harvard's innovations weren't just on the field, but also on the sideline. the Crimson became one of the first teams with a professional coaching structure, hiring Percy Houghton as the head coach in 1908. In recent times, Harvard, along with the Ivy League, has made strides in improving player safety, moving kickoffs up to the 40-yard line and bringing touchbacks out to the 25-yard line to limit high-risk collisions in the kick return game. As football continues to evolve throughout the next century, expect Harvard to continue to be on the cutting edge of innovation and new technology.
Touchdown.
So the Right Out Precision Fit helmet allows us to provide our players with the very best technology and safety that's available in the country. As a member of the NCAA Rules Committee, I was able to sit in with the NFL on their research and their data from the last 2 years, and one of the things that really came out was the player safety in the NFL and how it's improved when players were wearing the Right Out Precision Fit helmet. And we're the only FCS school, not only the only Ivy League school, but the only FCS school that really has taken the time, effort, and resources to make sure that each player has the opportunity to wear the very best technology out there in helmets. But when you're at the greatest academic institution in the world and you have Division I football players, what you want to do is you want to protect them in a way that they're able to excel in the classroom and excel in life after they play this great game. It's very important to us, it's very important to Yale, that not only do we provide them with a world-class experience on the football field, in the classroom, but also provide them with the opportunity to wear the very best equipment, which the Right Out Precision Fit helmet gives them, so they can excel in life.
My name is Levi Wiggins. I'm a redshirt senior at Campbell University, and I play football.
So what about Campbell made you realize that was the right school for you?
So I came here on a spring visit, watch practice, talked to some of the guys on the team, walked around the campus, and it was just like the perfect fit. I felt like I went to a couple of different schools, but it didn't seem like it was the fit. But when I came here, it all clicked, I felt like. I sent an email to the coaching staff saying they had any positions open, and they responded, they said a walk-on position, but I knew I just needed a chance to get on the field and show what I was able to do. So I got up here. Every day I worked out on the field, conditioning, classroom, weight room. I just gave it my all, just something the coaches could talk about, in their meetings, some way to come up in the meetings every day. A year and a half went by, and then they told me I was on full scholarship. Honestly, it happened in a meeting, and it was a one-on-one meeting with the coach, and it didn't hit me until I called my parents after the meeting. I talked to them, and they were excited for me.
You've been nominated and you were named as a semifinalist for the Campbell Trophy.
Right.
Kind of considered the academic Heisman by the National Football Foundation and the College Football Hall of Fame. Just your reaction and how you were able to share that news when you were told that you were a semifinalist.
To be recognized, in anything, it's a blessing, and I felt important. As humans, we want to feel important, and I feel like that was nice to be nominated for such an award. Around the nation with all the teams in the nation on football teams. It felt good. I felt good about myself. The work that I'm putting in is being noticed. So you gotta have, on a GPA scale, you gotta have at least a 3.2 on a 4.0 GPA scale. You gotta have an outstanding football ability as a first-team player, and have demonstrated, strong leadership and citizenship. I want to be the best on the field and best in the classroom. So I put the work in on the field just like I put the work in the classroom. You want to be a great football player, you got to take the time and work, study film, study your opponent, You want to be great in the classroom, you got to sit down, read your books, go over your PowerPoints, do your homework, and take it serious. My undergrad major was trust and wealth management. I'm currently getting my MBA right now in grad school, but eventually I'll take the LSAT, the entrance exam to get into law school. My dad he's an attorney, and I look up to him, and he helps me through a lot of things, and I want to pursue that just like him.
Hi, I'm Denise Thompson. I'm here for FCS All In. I have Craig Haley of Stats Perform and Sam Herder of Hero Sports. Hi, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
Doing real well.
Doing good. Thank you again for having us on.
Absolutely. We are back for another segment, this time for the mid-season. And so much has even gone on since the last time we spoke. I don't even know if we're going to get everything we're trying to get in a short amount of time. But for anyone that's listening, it will definitely be informational, as it has definitely been a roller coaster since we last spoke. So, of course, let's just go ahead and start with the big shebang. North Dakota State's 38-14 loss to Southern Illinois just sent shockwaves across the FCS nation, just very unexpected. What were your initial thoughts, Craig?
You're right, Denise. It's been a roller coaster. I mean, and a fun kind of ride. I mean, when the Bison lost like that, I mean, you start thinking, well, maybe they lost too much from the fall. Trey Lance and Dylan Raduns and some of the other seniors that they lost. But I think overall, it just was an early sign that it was going to be a crazy year. That the top 10 teams are more vulnerable than in the past. Usually, it's teams like maybe 15 to 30 that get knock each other off, but it just seems like these top 10 teams are vulnerable because we're jumping right into conference play and everybody's out to beat each other in conference.
What were your thoughts, Sam?
Yeah, and the crazy part about that one for Southern Illinois was the week before North Dakota hammered Southern Illinois, and so I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and so I'm pretty close to North Dakota, and I could hear the reactions already talking about, is UND ready to take over the state of North Dakota? And obviously this last week proved they're not quite ready yet with the Bison bouncing back and beating UND. But at the time of that win for Southern Illinois, just really shook things up. And like Craig said, just kind of told us that, this spring season is about to get pretty crazy.
And shook it up. Yes, it did. I'm not sure that voters even knew what to do. They were maybe so shocked. I can only imagine, Craig, how late those ballots were that next Sunday and Monday, because fans just did not know what to do. We saw a lot of splitting between James Madison and Weber State that weekend after the Bison loss. But James Madison has kind of stepped up to the plate, and they seem to be like they're in the lead. Craig, do you think that they're the favorite for the rest of the season right now?
Well, my favorite may not be your favorite, and your favorite may not be Sam's favorite. I mean, I think, yes. I mean, they're a blue blood program. They know how to get to Frisco. I mean, they have a lot of talent. Obviously, they've had some postponements, which sets you back when you're trying to gain a rhythm. But they're right up there. I just think there's a handful of teams that you could jumble up, and everybody's going to have a different opinion on it, and the Dukes being one.
What about you, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, right now I have JMU number 7 on my ballots right now, and I've heard JMU fans saying how ridiculous that is. I've also heard JMU fans saying, "Oh yeah, I completely understand that," because while JMU is 3-0, they haven't looked overly impressive doing it. If they do win out, I do think the Dukes will probably get a seed, but if they want a top 2 seed to guarantee home field advantage, I think their wins have to start getting a little more impressive, especially when it's coming against teams that aren't ranked right now.
Speaking of impressive wins, UC Davis out of the Big Sky just beat Cal Poly they scored 73 points, and that is the most in any FCS matchup so far this season. That then propelled the Aggies 6 spots up into the Stats Perform polls. Sam, what was your initial thoughts when I'm pretty sure you were on Twitter and the score just kept going and going and going before you could even blink?
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Rodriguez has really stepped up well at the quarterback position, taking over for Jake Mayer, who started for UC Davis for several years. But I mean, I think UC Davis scored 4 touchdowns in like 10 minutes of play, and he had a hand in all of them. And so that was really impressive what UC Davis did. We already know that Alonzo Gilliam is one of the top running backs in the FCS. And so they kind of have that 1-2 punch of Gilliam and Rodriguez and have a really balanced offensive passing attack. So anytime you put up 70 points, 70 plus points against a Division I team, I mean, that's really, really impressive.
Craig?
I think it just shows you Coach Hawkins, he's so talented as a coach, obviously Eddie Robinson Award winner. I think at 15 this week in the Stats Perform poll, I think they're underrated. They've had 3 quality performances. They've solved the quarterback issue, replacing Jake Meyer, as Sam mentioned. So I just think Coach Hawkins really has his finger on the pulse of that program.
Well, speaking of teams that may be underrated or overrated, Sam, tell me who your top 4 teams are right now in the top 25 standings.
Yeah, so in my latest Stats Perform ballots, I have Weber State number 1, number 2 is South Dakota State, and then number 3, North Dakota State, and then to round it out at number 4, I have Sam Houston.
Ooh, that's a little mixture of Southland, Big Sky, and Missouri Valley in there. I'm pretty sure those fans from those conferences might have something to say. But I think, before we even go over the Craig, that just shows you how crazy this year is. And especially, like you said, quality competition, looking at everyone's records and truly looking at the point differential, the quality of opponents, the consistency in there. And I think that just also might be why the votes might be a little bit more scattered this year. What about you, Craig?
Well, I think, as we mentioned, some of the top teams have had some off days, maybe shown some flaws. I think since they're all kind of similar, you have to give a benefit of the doubt to North Dakota State. I just think they've been the dynasty. They've only had one bad, one loss, that is. But I like them still number 1. Weber State, who I had number 1 for a few weeks, number 2. South Dakota State, and then I have JMU 4th. I just think it's the same mix of teams, just sort of how you view them in 1 through 5, say. So, but right now I'm sticking with the Bison.
All right. Now let's just switch it up a little bit more. We're right now at the midseason point of the season, and I just want to throw a couple questions to you guys just to see which teams are shining in different areas. So first up, Craig, which team has been the most improved from last season?
Ooh, wow. I mean, there's a lot of candidates. Rhode Island comes to mind for me. I mean, to have 2 wins on the road already in their first 2 games and against, ranked teams in the CAA. I just think Coach Fleming's done a great job. They lost so many key players. I mean, he's filled in very nicely between freshmen and transfers. I just think Rhode Island sticks out for a team that's just far exceeded expectations.
Sam, are you going to Rhode Island or are you going in another direction?
I'll go to the SoCon here. I'll go with VMI. This is a program that had some winless seasons just a few years ago, and then in 2019 took a huge step forward and was just under 500. And now VMI is out to a 4-0 start. Their quarterback Reese Udinsky is having a great start to the season, and he has a cool story in that we know there's been a lot of FCS to FBS transfers. He's one of them. But he's playing the spring season with VMI before transferring to Maryland. So that's kind of a cool story that he stuck around to really help this program continue to turn things around.
I think I might know the answer to this next question, but I'm not sure. Sam, which team has surprised you the most?
I'm going to go with UND. I know the Fighting Hawks just lost to NDSU, and it was a convincing one, but in the Fighting Hawks' first year in the Missouri Valley Football Conference, they made noise, immediately. We talked about how they took it to Southern Illinois. The next week, the Salukis took it to North Dakota State. UND had a great win against South Dakota State as well. And so I think UND came into the Valley as preseason number 7, and now they're already one of the top teams in that conference. So I'll go with UND for this one.
Well, that was my pick. So, Craig, are you going to match us or are you going to go in another direction?
Yeah, North Dakota, that's a great pick. I mean, I'll throw in Incarnate Word, down in the Southland. I mean, they also, that's a program that had to replace some key players and including at quarterback. And they've just come out and just, beating up on teams. I think they've done a great job. We had one voter in the Stats Perform poll that had them in the top 25 on their ballot in the preseason. And wow, that he had it right. I mean, they've just been a great story.
A lot of games. Which team has had the most impressive win, Craig?
Oh boy. I mean, we did start out with, North Dakota State's loss at Southern Illinois. I mean, Southern Illinois beat them 38-14, and that, 24 points. That's the second largest margin that the Bison have lost to since they've gone to Division I in 2004. So that one stands out in a big way.
Sam?
I'll go with Sam Houston, putting up 71 points on Nichols. Kind of gave Nichols a taste of their own medicine. Nichols put up, I think, 80 points and then 55 points in their first week. And then, we were all really high on Nichols, and then Sam Houston beats them 71-17. And so I think that was the start to people really, opening their eyes to Sam Houston as being a legit team in the FCS.
Do you think maybe you saw some of the Sam Houston that FCS fans had known over the past decade?
Yeah, and that's the crazy part about this Sam Houston team is we know they usually always have a good offense. In 2019, it was kind of reversed. Their offense struggled. Eric Schmidt, their quarterback, was hurt, but their defense really, really stepped up in 2019, and they had a good defense. And now they kind of have a little bit of both. They have a really explosive offense plus a great defense as well. So a really balanced Sam Houston team.
We've talked about North Dakota State, Weber State, South Dakota State. I think we threw in there a little bit. North Dakota. Which team has a tough schedule ahead as we near the end of the season, Craig?
Well, when you're in conference play, it's very tough. I think what comes to mind for me is the CAA North Division. It's 7 teams as opposed to 4 in the South Division this spring in the CAA. They're all good. They're all capable of beating each other. And Rhode Island was supposed to be the team that wouldn't contend, and here they are 2-0 with 2 road wins. I think any of those teams in the CAA North, is going to have a dogfight every single week.
Sam?
I'll go with North Dakota State. After beating the Fighting Hawks, NDSU is back in the discussion for being the top team in the FCS, going for that number 1 seed. But the Bison, they go to South Dakota, which probably should be a win. But the last 2 games versus South Dakota State, that probably is going to be whoever wins that game probably has a good chance to be the number 1 seed. And then to end the season, the regular season, the Bison go to Northern Iowa. You and I likely out of the playoff picture, so we'll see what Coach Farley does with, roster management in the final week of the regular season. But still, getting a win at the Uni Dome is never easy. So the Bison have a couple of really tough games to end the regular season.
All right, you've heard it here first. Craig Haley, Sam Herder on another segment of FCS All In. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
The Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference reached a milestone in the 2020-2021 academic year, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the league's founding in Greensboro, North Carolina, back in 1970. For half a century, MEAC student athletes have left their mark, particularly on the gridiron. The MEAC celebrates and recognizes such all-time greats as Harry Carson, Donnie Shell, Rod Milstead, Jay Walker, Tariq Cohen, and Darius Leonard, as well as such coaching legends as Willie Jeffries, Bill Hayes, Alvin Wyatt, Joe Taylor, Buddy Pugh, and Rod Broadway. Though the COVID-19 pandemic caused the MEAC to decide not to crown a champion or hold an official season, either in fall 2020 or spring 2021, 3 member institutions have still played games in the spring: Delaware State University, Howard University, and South Carolina State University. The COVID-19 pandemic made 2020-2021 a year unlike any other, but the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference can still celebrate its golden past and look forward to a glorious future.
Although Montana State is not participating in this Big Sky spring football season, there's still a lot going on in Bozeman. On February 8th, Brent Vegan, offensive coordinator at the University of Wyoming since 2014 and former player and assistant coach at North Dakota State, was officially named the 33rd head coach of the Bobcat football program. I'm now joined in studio by Coach Vegan. So we'll start off by going back to 2010 when you were with North Dakota State and playing Montana State in the playoffs. What kind of impression did you get from MSU that stuck with you and made you realize it's somewhere that you might want to be in the future?
Well, it was twofold. Certainly a very good team. Montana State had won the Big Sky that year, and we certainly had our hands full. So a lot of talent. It's a very competitive game that we ended up finding a way to win. But playing out here, that was really the thing from where can this program go? Where is this program at from a support perspective? And it was a cold December day, but the crowd was rocking, and I still vividly remember kind of the quarter break between the third and fourth, and it was a really close game at that time. We were maybe behind, and you just kind of sometimes the coach, you're like, how in the world are we going to get this done? It was a daunting team, it was a daunting environment that we were in, and that always stuck with me. We were fortunate the next 3 years through the FCS playoffs where we didn't have to go on the road, but you get a sense for those programs as you play more cross-country games, whether it's playoffs or non-conferences. Where is there real live support? Where is that crowd just electric? And Montana State was, at the top of the list after that game in my mind.
Now, aside from that, what made Montana State the right fit for you?
Well, going to Wyoming and having been there the last 7 years, my family and I really gained an appreciation for this part of the country. And in fact, I know my wife has said often, in this coaching profession, you don't necessarily control where you can go, but she said, I don't know if we could move out of the mountains, and that might come someday. But fortunately with this move, we're staying in the mountains and can enjoy all that Bozeman and the Big Sky, Yellowstone area has to offer. And certainly the state of Montana. I think the other thing, as you start investigating a little bit more, you're learning about the school, learning about the growth of this university, in particular last decade, the quality of the education our young men can receive, the investment being made, with the new facility. It's clear that, Montana State is clearly on track to continue building and not living in a world of complacency. I think that facility in the end zone will be a game changer for us, and hopefully we're not done as far as the vision and what we can do to enhance our program. So you couple that with the leadership and getting to know President Cruzado, Leon Costello. It's a top-down vision that we have here, and it was clear to see that in a pretty short time through the interview process and me just figuring out whether this was the right job or not.
Thanks for joining me, Coach. You can find the full interview with Coach Vegan on Big Sky social media channel, so be sure to connect with us there. Now, moving on to discuss the current Big Sky spring football season. 3 of the participating 8 teams boast a pair of wins entering this weekend. Topping the conference standings as the only undefeated team, Weber State leads with a 2-0 record. The Wildcats have ranked in the top 3 of the Stats Perform FCS national polls all year long. They have also received a ranking of number 2 in the AFCA coaches poll. Eastern Washington follows right behind the Wildcats in the standings with a 2-1 record and enters this weekend riding a 2-game win streak. The higher power offense that the Eagles sport is a catalyst to their national ranking of number 12 in the Stats Perform FCS poll and number 11 in the AFCA coaches poll. So far, their quarterback Eric Barrier is the only athlete that has boasted back-to-back Conference Player of the Week honors. Now, a 73-24 win over Cal Poly last Saturday set a UC Davis record for points. They'll be riding that momentum heading into the rest of the season. Like the Eags, the Aggies boast a 2-1 record. They are ranked 15th in the Stats Perform FCS poll and 19th in the AFCA coaches poll. Know that you can catch all the Big Sky football games for free here on Pluto TV. Be sure to tune in and support your favorite Big Sky schools. And if you're looking for around-the-clock information on Big Sky football, be sure to give @BigSkyFB a follow on Twitter.
It's Ralph Ventry checking in from the Northeast Conference, where all eyes are focused on the April 11th championship game. Teams are hoping to secure the opportunity to play for the NEC's automatic FCS playoffs berth. The top 2 finishers in the standings will qualify for the conference's first ever spring title bout. Now, Duquesne did quite well for itself in attempting to qualify for that game by posting back-to-back victories to open the spring season. The second of Duquesne's 2 wins, a 17-0 shutout of Wagner, well, that win was also the 100th victory in head coach Jerry Schmidt's tenure. Schmidt and the Dukes have benefited from first-year starters on offense this spring. Quarterback Joe Mishler completing nearly 70% of his passes. Graduate transfer tailback Garrett Owens is averaging more than 130 scrimmage yards per appearance. Oh, and hey, how about Sacred Heart's stud running back? Julius Chestnut is running over opposing defenses. The 2019 Stats Perform All-American has discovered a higher gear during his junior season. Chestnut has piled up more than 200 yards from scrimmage in each of the Pioneers' first 2 games. He has already found the end zone 8 times. Julius Chestnut, the Sacred Heart running back, running wild in spring season. On the defensive side, it's time to shout out Bryant junior linebacker Joe Andreessen. The Western New York product has made 6.5 tackles for loss through 2 games this spring. That's right up there near the top of the FCS. That's all for now from the Northeast Conference. Follow us at NEC Football on Twitter.
Carl, how did the idea for the March Against Injustice come about?
Yeah, so it was primarily born out of knowing that I, as a white person, need to take my own initiative, kind of like you said, and create on my own rather than just simply supporting things that my Black friends, associates, whatever, just people in the community had organized already. It really started with a text to Mike. And I was like, do you think this is a good idea, blah, blah, blah. And Mike immediately goes, shut up, I'll come down there and I'll do it with you. And less than a week later, you know, we've got 70-something people marching with us. We've raised $20,000. So I can't say that we had any idea of what it was going to become.
Carl, what was the most rewarding part of the experience, and what message do you think it sent?
Most rewarding, I think, just seeing people come together. There were a lot of people that we didn't know there that, you know, heard about the march one way or another and just showed up and, you know, walked for 7 hours. And while that is not action in and of itself, seeing people commit to something like that was really inspiring, I think. People see the kind of unity that we showed that day. Wow, you know, we've got our demands of the police, and then we've got the money that we raised for EJI. We also were in the public eye, and we're displaying not just unity, but also just the collective outcry against the things that we're seeing, the atrocities that we're seeing against Black people in America.
Carl, how can you use your platform as a student athlete to help spur change against racial injustice?
Sure. So it starts on campus. You know, we talk about systemic racism. Well, what are those actual systems that we're talking about? One of them exists in higher education. the plight of the oppressed is inextricably linked across the globe. So, we need to focus small in terms of creating change small, but we also have to understand that these are not isolated incidents just in time or in location. Just being continually involved in the fight. And that doesn't look like just showing up to a protest here and there. That's continuous action, meetings, pushing for action, continuously showing support of my Black teammates and also Black people that I don't know, because the value in a Black person's life isn't because I know them. It has nothing to do with me at all. It has everything to do with them.
When Dean Hood was hired at Murray State following the 2019 season, he made it clear what the expectations were for the Racers program.
We're going to have a goal of winning an OVC championship at Murray. That's going to be our goal. Nobody's going to work harder at that than us.
Although the Racers are not quite there yet, they opened the season with their best start since 1998 and are ranked in the top 25 polls for the first time since the 2011 season.
It's a process. You've got to trust the process. And do we want to come in and make great strides in year one? Absolutely, without question. Our goal is not going to be, hey, let's win a championship in 10 years. We're committed to it, but it's a process. The kids have to trust the process. The coach have to trust the process. Everybody has to trust the process and step by step work towards that goal.
Coach Hood says the key has been the buy-in among players during this transition.
Well, you're just blessed. I mean, if that happens, it just truly is a blessing because like I said, it's very, very fragile and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And there's a lot of, good meaning coaches doing things the right way, caring about the kids and installing good schemes and you don't get the buy-in, so it's just very, very blessed, when that does happen, especially in the pandemic, because, one way to try to get that cohesion, try to get that unity is through building relationships. And, this thing right here is, all about not building relationships, stay apart, stay away, don't get close, so it was very, very difficult and we're just very fortunate.
Hood was no stranger to the OVC when he took the Murray State job. He served as head coach at Eastern Kentucky for 8 seasons, winning 55 games, a pair of OVC championships, and making 3 FCS playoff appearances.
The coaches seem like they're younger and kids seem like they're younger and I seem like I'm older, but other than that, it's all the same. Been, really, really blessed with the assistants that I have and, loving that part of it too, is being around them on a daily basis along with the players. But really, yeah, it's the same, as far as the environment, with everything that was going on in our world and everything that made things very, very different. And a lot of things that, you had in that playbook from your previous coaching, you put in the bonfire because it was all new stuff, but very similar, as far as being a head coach again at an OVC school.
It seems Coach Hood could be on his way to adding to his OVC championship collection and bringing Murray State its first OVC crown since 2002. The OVC regular season schedule continues with games through Sunday, April 11th. For more information, log on to ovcsports.com and make sure to follow the OVC on your favorite social media platforms with the handle @OVCSports.
Welcome to your Missouri Valley Football Conference Extra Point as we hit the midway point of conference play. With the FCS playoff field pared down from 24 to 16 teams this spring, including just 6 at-large bids, South Dakota State head football coach John Stegelmeyer called this weekend's matchups, quote, the biggest weekend of the season. Saturday features a pair of top 6 matchups, including the in-state rivalry between defending national champion 4th-ranked North Dakota State and number 2 North Dakota. It marks the first meeting between these former longtime North Central Conference rivals as Missouri Valley football opponents. The teams last played as conference NCC members back in 2003, although have met twice since as non-conference opponents in 2015 and more recently in 2019, a Bison win. North Dakota State will put its school record 31-game home win streak on the line Saturday in the Fargo Dome. The 31-game win streak is tied for fourth longest in FCS history and is the longest active home win streak in the FCS and a new Valley record. The Fighting Hawks are unbeaten on the season at a perfect 4-0, while the Bison are in a three-way tie currently for second. Missouri State football's rebirth is underway under new head coach Bobby Petrino and staff. The Bears picked up their first win of the season over a top 25 opponent, edging 21st ranked South Dakota 27-24, thanks to touchdowns from its offense, defense, and special teams. The win was Missouri State's first over a ranked opponent since upsetting Illinois State September 29, 2018. MSU improves to 2-1 in the Valley and 2-0 in league road games this year. This week, Missouri State is in search of their third conference road win for the first time since 2009 and first win in Cedar Falls since 1998. Petrino's squad has allowed just 14 points total in the second half this spring and is +3 in the turnover battle. The Valley is dominating the top 25 rankings. For only the third time in league history, 4 Valley teams rank in the top 6 of national polls, led by league newcomer North Dakota at number 2. 5 teams are in the top 10 of the Stats Perform poll for the second straight week, which ties the league record. The MVFC also holds down 5 of the top 7 spots in the Massey ratings. You can catch all 5 of this weekend's games streaming live or on replay on ESPN+. Don't forget, for all the latest Valley news and notes, be sure to visit valley-football.org.
Thanks for going all in with us. Our next episode will air on April 24th, but until then, let's be sure to keep the conversation going on social media by using the hashtag FCS All In.